MPG, and welcome to our webinar. I'm really excited to have these Tech Talk Tuesdays back. The feedback I've gotten from you guys that you really enjoyed it, and I'm committed. We're going to try to do these a lot more often. So today we're going to talk about disk. It's a great subject. You can imagine how many times when I'm in the field teaching how we always talk about managing disk. It's tough, but it doesn't have to be. So with that, we're going to get started. All right, so today's agenda, what we're going to talk about is how to really understand your disk environment. And when I think of disk, everybody says that it's hard to manage. It doesn't have to be. The things I'm going to show you today and the things I do in class all the time is I want to show you guys the big hitters on how to manage this stuff easier. Because a lot of you remember I'm an old ex-customer in the trenches that, I had the same issues that you guys had for years and years and years. So we're going to show you hopefully today some things when you have disk issues or external and internal disk environments, things to make your job easier. So we're going to look at measuring individual asks. We're going to talk about disk growth, that our MPG LOB file, the libraries and objects file, how that's created. And we'll talk about best practice guidelines along the way. And we're going to talk about internal versus external disk. Obviously, the trend in the industry is to go to external disk, so we'll talk about how to understand performance when you have that kind of environment. We'll talk about, at the end, we're really excited. We're going to talk about new product functionality that we're going to help you with the disk environment, and we'll talk about a major change in one of our performance scripts, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. All right. The essence of a good systems program. I put this slide in there this week because I had a customer that asked me a question, and I was thinking about how long I've used the product. I've used the product for about 20 years now, which is crazy, and I've seen a lot of changes with the product. If you think about, we're at version 18 right now. It's hard to believe. Whatever the version I had was maybe version 2 or something at one time, but we're now at 18. And I was thinking about all the problems and projects that I've worked on. All you guys, the same thing. All the real life examples we've all seen. And I was thinking of all the complexity of the IT projects we worked on. And the phone call that I got from a fairly new customer, when he was kind of talking about expectations, and he asked a simple question. And he said, "Why doesn't the product just tell me what the problem is?" And I was like that dog where my head kind of went to the side, like, what are you asking? And then I kind of knew where he was going. And when I thought about the product and the essence of a good systems person and programmer is, sometimes when we're troubleshooting major issues at our companies, sometimes we get lucky and the problems are easily found. But most times, we're all playing detective and we're trying to prove and to manage what's going on, or our internal or external customers. So I've got a really great real life example later in the demo about external disk that I found this weekend. And it's one of those examples where you have to dig. So, our goal is MPG, and I say this as an ex-customer, we're trying to build functionality for you guys every day, whether it's problem determination, performance management, capacity planning, to make your job easier. I know for me, when I was a customer, I shined in front of my boss because this stuff just works. So I guess what I'm saying is I wish we all had a magic button that we could put in the product to get all your answers easily. If we do, Randy's going to be really happy about that because he'll make a lot more sales. But I promise you this, we're going to keep building functionality where you guys can do your job easier and shine in front of your boss. All right, so let's talk about disk. Why are we here? The cool thing about PerfNav and PowerNav that we've got this great historical graphs, and I'm just going to kind of hit these bullet points quickly. We have historical graphs, current day graphs, service level graphs. We've got detailed and summary reports and power analysis reporting, SSD, and external disk analysis. I mean, there's so much into this product, and you can understand why I have a 2.5-day hands-on lab class, because there is so much functionality. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you the big hitters and just kind of show you the areas that you can use to manage your disk better, because I will tell you this, every systems person is different. There's things that I do that I like in the product, and you'd be amazed at how many sites I go to and someone will show me a different technique, and I'm like, wow, that's really a cool idea. So I would just tell you up front that the cool thing about the IBM raw data, right, current day graphs, you can see, I mean, look at how many graphs we have there. That's incredible. And it all depends on what you're troubleshooting. MPG historical data, we can look at things historically and see trends and the like. But I also use the historical data for troubleshooting. So again, it all depends on what you're trying to convey or trying to prove to your customer. We've also got an entire suite of library objects and IFF drillable graphs where you can see, by date, by week, by month, and so forth. So right off the bat, you've got so many areas that you can do when you're managing disk. So I will just tell you that when we're looking at disk, we're looking at two things that we're concerned with. And my mouse is going crazy on me, hanging there. That's just not me doing that. I don't know what happened there. When we're looking at disk, right, we have disk space issues and we have performance issues. So we're going to look at both of those today. So let's talk about the easy one, disk growth. It's not easy, but it's one of those things that we all have to deal with. So there's two types of growth, right? There's disk growth over time, and there's disk growing today. And I will tell you, and we've probably all been there, the one where disk is growing today, that is never good. So we're going to actually look at, hang on, I'm going to stop this. I don't know if my PC is going nuts on me, but those are all going on their own. So hang in there. Murphy is alive and well. I just came out of it and went back into it. Let's see if that helps. So I'm going to show you why disk is growing today. So hopefully that'll stop doing that. I don't know if I accidentally hit some parm. Murphy's having fun, but we're going to go into PerfNav, and I'm going to show you something that just happened in our box last week, and it's the perfect real-life example. So here's disk space over time. But we had one where disk was growing today. So I will tell you, when you go into a current day graph and disk, I'm going to show you where disk right there. So there is and I'm going to get my webinar little panel out of the way here. All right, so there's current day disk. When you have a current day disk, and I tell this to everybody, back in the day when I worked at Boise Cascade, I had a disk issue, and I think if I go back to PowerPoint just to show you what we used to do. Yeah, so this is what we used to do, right? We'd see our disk space going up, and we'd go Mayday, and I can remember having an IT staff that was pointing at each other, and it was just ugly. I mean, just ugly. And when I think about how PerfNav developed over the years, the menu order speaks volumes. And I will tell you that when you look at historical disk, the disk space utilization is at the top of the menu, right? But look at this. Look where it was in the current day. I laughed at that, and I'm taking full credit for that, laughing and thinking how many years ago when I had that Boise Cascade disk growing phenomena during the day where it's going up, 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 and all the messages are going to the console and everybody is going, NEM, it's a twister, it's a twister. It was bad. I remember calling Joe and say, Joe, we need a disk space graph so we can look at things today. And in fairness to Joe, you can see it's the sixth one down in the menu. In fairness to Joe, in theory, we're not supposed to have disk issues today. I mean, it's not, if you think about it, usually you're going to grow over time. But it happened, and it's happened to a lot of us out there. So when you have that issue, I always talk, what type of things are going to make your disk increase right now? Well, you're going to have things, I've seen them where if you're having a job that's using temp storage, right? Temp storage is going crazy in the box, or a job is writing out to disk. Maybe someone's copying a file from test to production. So when you get a current day graph where it's going up, 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 now there's a better way to figure out what's going on. And now we have a new option under disk where it says, why is disk growing today? How easy is that? So I'm going to show you that in a demo. and I'll show you how easy it is. So if it's going up, 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 and by the way, let's talk about these kind of issues. Sometimes it happens today, sometimes it happened yesterday or the day before. So we give you the capability, if it was just going up a little bit during the day, maybe you can go back later and say, okay, what happened? I'm actually going to do that today because we had an issue that happened about a week ago. But let's pretend the disk right now on this current day graph, disk graph, is growing today. So when I like to show it 100%, if these bars were going up, 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 it'd be Mayday, right? Operations would be freaking out. All you do is go to Power Analytics, Disk, and look at this. Why is disk growing today? So what's really cool about this, and a few of you have had my class where we used to right click on the bar and you could say analyze interval, and I think you can still do that, but I'm just going to teach you when you've got a disk issue, just go up to that menu option and say, why is disk growing today? And you can see, we walk you through, we tell you what it's doing, and look at this. We tell you that you can do one interval, multiple intervals, and you'll do it with the trend line. So now we give you a really cool menu, and you can say, okay, do I want to analyze now, multiple? Maybe it went way up during nightly batch and you're trying to figure that out, but we'll pretend it's an issue where it's going up right now. So you just click on now, and hopefully it runs a little script. And what's really cool, I mean, look at that. How neat is that that comes up so quickly? So what we give you is a fully qualified job names. In the first section, we're looking at temp storage. By the way, every disk issue when it's happening today is not a temp storage issue, but it can be. So we're trying to play detect it and give you things. We're pointing on what's hitting the disk hard where you guys can see. And again, we're giving you fully qualified job names so you can not have to guess. I've been in computer rooms where they're just going, cancel this, hold this, it's chaos. So I don't want you to have chaos. So look at this. We give you fully qualified jobs for temp storage. Another thing in the IBM raw data, and I found this field years ago where it's temp and perm storage, again, fully qualified. And then you come down here, and then we show you what's doing the most disk IOs. A lot of times when I've had this in the field where I've been lucky enough where a problem has happened when I was there and we ran this, it's found the problem every time. Now, does that mean we're always going to find the problem for you guys? No, but we're sure trying to point you in the right direction. So here's one where the disk was happening like right now. But I'm actually going to go back to PerfNav, and I'm going to show you how you can point back to another member. So I'm going to go back, and it'll be obvious when you see it. You see how I'm going back days where there's Saturday, Friday. Hopefully I've got my raw data here. I love it. Come on, mouse. Look at that. So this happened on our box, and you could see it was up, up, up. So we wanted to know what was going on. So watch what I can do. If I go up to the menu, Power Analytics, why is it growing today? Bear with me, I'm trying to get my GoToWebinar kind of panel out of the way. So I can go over here, and you can either drag it, and I'll just show you how I do the drag. Come on. I'm going to do multiple. So now it says set the trend line for the period you want to analyze. So there's a couple ways you can do it. I'm kind of I drag the trend line kind of here, and then I'll go over and bring it back here, or you can do stop start trends. But right there, once you put the trend line for the area you want to analyze, you notice we're in a pause. So what you can do at this point is just hit the continue button, and notice you get a little warning because it says, hey, Mayday, you're looking at a past day, temp storage data is not going to be available. In the first script that we ran, if you think about, we're looking at temp storage right now, we're just doing an API to get that data. So it's just a little FYI saying, hey, we're going to give you a cool report, but you're not going to get temp storage because it's not applicable. So when I hit OK, watch this. So it's kind of neat when you get these real life examples. And I always use the term it's God with a sense of humor, because I was preparing for this webinar and we really had a disk issue, which was kind of cool. But you can go down here, and what I wanted to show you was one of my peers was doing a data reduction job for a big, large file. So here's a real life example where we ran this and we all looked at each other and laughed and we said it worked perfectly. So again, it doesn't always work that good where you get the needle in the haystack, but in this case we got it. So that's how easy in that example, whether you look at the last interval or analyze multiple intervals, and look what I just did, went back and looked at past day, you can do that. As long as and I always tell folks, keep your IBM raw data out there. These disk capacities are so big now. I won't run the graph, but I encourage you guys to run the graph. This graph right here, graph, disk, performance data size. If you run this on your system, I used to get all the time where I can't keep more IBM raw data because it's going to hurt my disk. Well, think about what we do as systems programmers. We're proving to management, internal and external customers, the real picture. If you run that on your system, you will see that I would say 99% of the sites I go to, the percentage of performance data, whether it be IBM and MPG added together versus your DASD, is less than 1%. So if you're going to create an environment where you can look at your IBM raw data for 2 months, think about it. You may have what month end was good this month or bad, this month good a month ago. You can actually do befores and after if you have that data. So just a side best practice guideline tip from me, if you can keep a month to 2 months of data, you will really shine when you get these weird problems where you have to analyze past days. All right. So let's keep going. That automatic, it's like I'm hitting enter when I'm not, it'll stop. So just bear with me on that. All right. So why is disk growing historically? So I put a kind of a cheat sheet on here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but when you guys actually download the PDF, which again, this is going to be a recorded PDF, and we'll send out, there'll be a link to the recording and the documentation PDF itself. But a lot of people don't realize how the MPG, the library and object file, is created. So I give you a little flow here. And it happens when we're doing data reduction. And I just put a little cheat sheet on here. I do this in my class as well. And I show you how to what occurs when you have multiple asks. So it's a little trickier with multiple asks, but I put a little note from Joe in there on how to do it. So if you have one ask, multiple asks, you can look at things historically. And I'm going to show you that right now. So if you had this, and this is why I talk about the power of historical data and doing monthly reporting. Here's a great example where I'm not at my best practice guideline of 80%. But look at that trend. That's crazy. And I can tell you how many times I've been in real life shops. If I gave that to my CIO, he'd be on the phone in a second going, Mayday, what's going on with disk? It's a fair question. So what we can do with historical graphs is we can hit our set a trend line, and by the way, this is on our development box, and you can see it's going up, 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 and when you click extrapolate, you get that really cool percentage and extrapolation of where disk is going. So I've used that technique all the time just to show management. And when you have multiple asks, I always call it the little pull down magic triangle, that you can actually do that and look at multiple asks as well. So it's over in the corner. If you've got multiple asks, you can simply do the same thing with extrapolation, and you can put guidelines on it just like that, where you hit the guideline button. I'm not a real fan of the green, yellow, red is cool, but boy, that's a lot of color for me. So if you hit the button again, you just get the nice line going across. Personal preference, I've seen it done in both ways in the field. I will tell you that the guidelines, if you go under, edit graph report options, here are all the guidelines out here. A couple things I see. This is a customer I was at. I would not have response time at 1. IBMI systems are great with, response time. You probably should make those 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. You can see in this customer, they were very conservative. They were measuring to 70% disk and said 80. That's okay. This is the data levels, time, date, week, month. good rule of thumb, make them all the same. So in this case, look at how disk response time is 4 milliseconds. So in this example, I would encourage the customer to make it 15, 15, 15, and 15 for ARM utilization. All right, so back to our alarming growth. When you get this, we're going to get the phone call, Mayday, what's going on with disk? So what do we do? And then the first thing I would ask up front, what makes disk, grow over time? Well, we know that libraries can increase in size, and we also know that the IFS, directories and stream files, can increase. And a thing that we all forget, sometimes there's temp space issues, and I've seen where people have memory leaks. Certainly on Unix platform, I've seen this a lot, where you can have issues that make your disk get filled. So let's show you guys, and a lot of you might have seen this, but I know I've been to a lot of sites that people just don't realize all the functionality that we have in this area. We've got an entire suite of disk scripts under Power Analytics to help you manage this stuff easier. And I'm going to do a real life demo here, and you'll see, like, in less than 5 minutes that you'll have a clear big picture of what's going on with the system. So let's switch back over. Okay, so let's pretend I've just looked at my report. My disk space is going crazy. I'm going to go here and look at it historically. And I'll even show you what it would look like. You can go down here and go to the month level. This is where you can do your trends and the like. And you can see easily when you look at our development box, I mean, that's nuts, right? So you can see that it's going up, up, up. And just to kind of replicate what I did in the screenshots, there's the start of the trend, end of the trend right there. Hit the button. There's my extrapolation. Hit it again. And I can say, based on the current trend, if everything remains the same, we're growing at a 41% clip. That could be good. I've been to a lot of sites where that's good because business is booming. I've also been to a lot of sites where people are going, what is going on with our disk? And they need to figure it out. Well, we're going to show you how easy it is. So the first thing I do is I like to go under disk and just show you, why is my disk growing? So it's a really, really, really cool script, and you'll be amazed at what this shows. So, we kind of show you the last 6 months, but I mean, you can see I get a little warning message. If you've already done an analysis, we save the dates so you can do it again easily. In this case, I'll say no. So now we're going to select a before date. By the way, a little commercial for next month. In December, we're going to do another Tech Talk Tuesday on understanding the impact of change. We'll show before versus after analysis. There's so much powerful things for you guys to understand when applications change or your systems change or you just discover a change. We'll talk about that phenomenon a bit too. But when you see things like that, how do you troubleshoot and how do you prove to management what's going on? That's going to happen next week. And we're going to include a little Unix on the Unix side as well, where we look at file systems. Same kind of concept what we're doing today, but we look at file systems. And when those start to grow on the Unix side, we've got the solution to help you guys find out what's going on. Okay, commercial ended. But so now I've got to figure out my before date. So just for fun, I'm going to just drag this back here. You literally can go anywhere in the data. Let's say I'll grab a Sunday right there. I can get my mouse. Boom. And I'm going to say set that date as my before date. And now if I hit my continue button, it's going to say do my after date. Okay, so I did a Sunday there. I'll go up here and I won't be on a Sunday. If you guys remember, that MPG LOB file is created every Sunday. So Sunday to Sunday will be the data, but we're smart enough to, if you grab, in this case, a Tuesday, I can make that Tuesday my after date. We'll get you to the closest Sunday. All right. So now once you do this, I just hit the continue button and check this out. Now, I admit that this is geeky cool to me, and my wife always gives me a hard time, like, really, Doug, that's cool, but you need to get a life. But when you're a systems guy managing disk, I'm telling you, it's hard. And it's not hard with this PerfNet PerfNav just makes it so easy for it. First of all, look at that. I just compared all the way back, how many, over a year ago to right now. You get this cool findings page where it says, okay, here's the top libraries that we found. These are new. Now they truly could be new, or all of a sudden they're big hitters. They weren't out there and before in the top, and now they are. I can tell you these are new because we now are doing performance analysis for sites all over the world, so we've got a lot of performance data. But also look at we show you libraries that are existing that were out there on both the before date and the after date that just have grown. So it's really cool if you look at this. Not only we just show you new libraries, we show you the grown. Look, and we also show you when temp storage grew or when stream files grew. I guarantee if I would have went back farther, I was doing one of these tests the other day, that lit up like a Christmas tree down below where I had temp storage issues and stream files. So very, very cool. No more guessing. You guys have heard me say this probably too many times and they're sick of it. No more guessing, no more having a feeling. When you run this Power Analytics analysis, you're going to see exactly what's going on. And you can see below, it is a cool side-by-side picture. Here are the top libraries back in the day. Here are the ones now. By the way, remember when I made my after date, not a Sunday? We basically showed you what Sunday we used. So we got you to a Sunday. And look at this. QGPL grew 127%. So I guarantee if I saw that, I know about my new ones, right? I'm doing all this new analysis, but I would want to know, okay, what's going on with QGPL? So watch this. I go back to PerfNav and I do, why is my library growing? So you see the methodology, you see all your bad libraries, you see that in this report. Then you can go here and watch this. Same look and feel. You can see last time I was looking at QGPL, I'm going to show you no. Let's pretend I didn't look at it. We default to MPG Live. This is where you would enter your library that you want to look at. But yes, I'll do QGPL and then check it out. Now this is what I love, little cool functionality. We save the dates, right? So you just set the before and after date on the previous thing. You don't want to do that again. You're kind of going down the line. You want to troubleshoot fast. So we make that available for you just by saving the dates. And it says, do you want to process with those dates? Yes, I do. Check it out. Same look and feel, same exact, checking all. In this case, we're going and looking QGPL back in the day versus now. Look at this. We can see that it grew 120%, 27%. And you can see very easily new object, new object, new object. How cool is that, right? Again, no more guessing. It's supporting doc that you can take out and go to whatever core functional area at your company and show folks what's going on. Now, what's the last piece? The last piece of the puzzle is this, IFS, the hidden thing that's so hard to troubleshoot. Well, it's not hard with PerfNav. So now you can go down here and you can say, why is my IFS growing? And by the way, even with me teaching this to you guys right now, can you see how I'm doing a full analysis for disk and libraries and IFS in probably less than 10 minutes. I mean, think about how busy we are as systems folks. To be able to have this ability to do this fast is just a feather in your cap, and that's why you guys are going to shine in front of your bosses, because you can do this analysis fast. So hopefully, Murphy, you're not going to get me here. I'm going to get a good report. Oh, look at that. Come on. I love it. So same look and feel again, but look at that. We show you where it grew 60%, we show you there were 23 new, 4 directories, and 3 were over 50, and we show it down here. It's that easy. I mean, it really is cool that you can do that. All right. So now we'll go back to where we were. Let's see where I was here. So let's talk about performance. So we now know, and I know we're going through this fast, and I encourage you guys go back and see the recording and you can see it again. But we've now got the ability that we can now know why disc is growing today and why is it growing over time. Pretty cool, and I think I've had enough feedback from the field that people are like, wow, I didn't even know your product did that. So if a lot of you are seeing this for the first time, man, have fun. You will shine in front of your bosses because you can see this. But now let's talk about the other thing we do as systems people is performance management. So we'll talk about DISC. So what's the best practice guideline? We look at arm utilization as one of our components. So MPG recommends 15% busy. I'm going to laugh as I talk about my 35 years here. I can remember back in the day when IBM used to say, 25, 30% busy is okay. And you guys are all laughing too. You probably, for you old timers out there, you probably remember it too. MPG has seen thousands and thousands and thousands of real life examples, and we start to see patterns when it's over 15% busy. Does it mean there's an issue every time it's over 15? No, but we like to use that because we've just seen degradation and the like when it starts to go over that. So this is you can make your guideline anything you want, but remember you're trying to get good performance. Okay. So one of the things that you can do is I love the service level graphs when I want to just get a picture of what's going on with my disk environment. So you can do arm utilization and disk response time, and you can see you can do ASP1 or other ASP. We don't keep individual ASP recorded historically in the historical file, but we do lump them together. So to me, it's better than nothing. And the feedback I've gotten from the field is that's been fine for the most part. Okay, so let's look at disk arm utilization. So you can see here a screenshot that I looked at pretty much October for the whole 24-hour view. And you can see that that the service level was 98%. I was under 15% busy. That's awesome. You can also get granular where you can say, okay, what did I do 8 to 5? And then what I remember, I always talk about the deliverable my CIO gave me, but I guess I remember it so much because it was such a part of my job description. He said, Doug, I don't care what happens all day. I don't care about 8 to 5, but when those trucks are being loaded with product between 3 and 5 o'clock, I need our system service levels to be impeccable. And that was my deliverable. So, you can get very granular with PerfNav, and you can look at your service levels for, nightly batch or month end or whatever. But here's where I'm looking between 3 and 5, and you can see I'm almost 97% of the time I'm good. People often ask me, what should those service levels be? How much, what? It's like a grade, like we're grading our kids in school. Same kind of thing with performance management. I like to say that I like to see that number be 95 or higher. You're going to have anomalies, like things are going to happen, but you want to look over time and just make sure that, that's like a solid A there. And I've been to enough sites where there are 98, 99. I had one the other day that looked like a green sun. It was so good. So this is something a lot of you maybe haven't graded your systems at this service level concept yet, but do it. And you might learn that, we've got a tuning opportunity at night, or we've got a tuning opportunity in the afternoon. So play with this and really get a good feel. And what's the term I use over and over? Understand your systems at a deeper level. You're going to shine in front of your bosses once you know what's going on. Okay. You can also look at the extrapolation thing like we did before historically. So there's arm utilization. And you can see that October big bar. Hold that thought. We'll come back to that in a bit. And I guess we'll go to it right now. When I went to, so I went arm utilization. What's the next thing I look at? Disk response time. Look what I discovered over the weekend. I was running some historical reports, and you saw in the whole power analytics thing that there's a lot of things you can play with. And I ran a disk analysis, and I went, holy cow, look what happened to disk response time in October. I mean, I was doing this with my daughter the other day, who's not a performance management person, and she said, hey, Dad, what happened in October? Which I thought was the coolest thing. She knows nothing about performance management, but she could look at that graph and go, hey, what happened in October? I mean, it's a 16-year-old kid that went, oh, little, big. Something's different. That's called discovering a change, and this is, again, what we'll talk about next month. But you can see that disk response time grew 622%. in October. And by the way, when I drill down into my favorite view by date, look at that. Little big. So is it within best practice guideline in my 4 milliseconds? Well, it was until October 9th. So how cool is that when you can get down, and this is why this historical data is so valuable and why you do reporting. I literally saw this weekend as I was doing screenshots for this class. And I'm like, what is going on? So I was having fun troubleshooting. So the best practice guideline, like I said, is to be 4 milliseconds or less. We've discovered the change. You can see that when I put my little guidelines button on there, it is Mayday. What is going on? So this is the kind of stuff that you guys will see by looking at your historical data. Now, I often get asked, gosh, what is the difference between, service time and wait time? So I always think about the bank. When I think about how when we go to a bank, when you're in line, when you're waiting for that teller, right? That's wait time. So you're in line waiting to get serviced. When you get to the teller, you give your money and you're doing the whole deposit transaction. Now you're being serviced. Together, that is your banking response time. So just like a bank where everybody has unique needs, some things are going to take longer than others. The same, I always think of bank tellers as disk arms. The more tellers that I have at my bank, the faster my banking processes and needs are going to be done. With disk arms, same thing. The more disk arms you have, the faster your disk work can be completed. Very, very simple concept if you think it like that. So a good environment versus bad, even though this is a very old screenshot, I thought it was perfect to show. Notice all the good service time. Notice the little red. Notice we're way below 4 milliseconds. Or you can have this Mayday picture where you're way above 4 milliseconds and look how much we're waiting. We need more arms, more tellers, right? Okay. So what to look for in disk response time graphs? Like I said, you want to be under 4 milliseconds. You want to see more green than red. We want to be servicing the disk. If a lot of red's going on, we're queuing. Our requests are queuing, and that's bad. I looked at this as my best practice guideline. How do I look as far as disk? There's my 24-hour view, and there is where, and there is when I went to my 3 to 5. So I can get to that level just like I could with ARM utilization. Just wanted to show you that you can do that. Now, here's where again, you can do the same thing with ARM utilization or with disk response time as we did with ARM utilization. Again, you can trend it and look for how it's going to extrapolate and predict for the future. So back to our bad October 9th phenomenon. Notice when I look at the service time in September, look how good I am. 98% of the time I'm under 4 milliseconds. Look at that. That's crazy. So imagine me this weekend. By the way, think about it. No phones are ringing off the hook. Nothing's going on. This is our development box. So all of a sudden, I just happen to get ready for this webinar, and I'm like, what is going on with that? I'm one of those guys where I can't sleep at night. If I see something like that going on, I have to know what's going on. So I'm going to do a quick audience poll right now. Just one question, and I'm going to just ask. I'm going to ask one simple question. Do you guys have, who out there, do you have external disk or internal disk? So do you have external disk, just say yes. And I'm going to give it a look. I love it. And this is what I expect. And this is why this next section is going to be really good. All right. So I am going to close. So it's like 80-20. It was just in the high 70s. So 80% of you guys have external disk. And that makes sense, right? Because the industry is going that direction. So I always say whether you're a 35-year IT veteran like myself, and my God, where did the time go? Seriously, or a newbie in the IBMI world, right? Diving into the external disk arena, it is a new world. Think about as IBMI guys, we grew up with collection services data, and now when you're in the external disk side, you're looking at NMON data, this whole Nigel's Monitor NMON data. If you guys have know it, we're starting to look at that concept. And because, like I said, the industry trend and change has happened, a lot of us were, I'm doing the air quotes here, forced to support this environment. And I talked to a lot of folks, a lot of people with little or no training, where all of a sudden you've got to learn to understand the external disk environment. I admit I am not an expert at all, because I've had internal disk forever. But now think of all the sites I've gone to, think of all the analysis I've done here. I'm having a blast just looking at this data and understanding external disk. So, the Unix world is just different to a lot of us IBMI guys. I mean, I've been to enough conferences, I've talked to folks, and it's different. It's not wrong. It's just there's a different way of looking at things in that world. And I was talking to a really cool customer yesterday who really knew his stuff. I mean, this guy, just a smart guy, experienced, and we were just talking that, when you're introduced to this external disk side of the house, it's kind of like a black hole to a lot of us. It's like, what's going on? So I wanted to have a couple of slides just to, and everybody that knows how I teach, I love real life examples. I think they're the best way to learn. And I have to show you some, after a couple of slides, I'm going to show you two ultimate real life examples. So my external disk node, we use what's logical arms. And disk arm utilization can be a bit tricky. If you have my example here, if you had 10 physical arms, but you have 20 logical arms, the arm utilization might be 12% busy based on the number of arms 20. However, since you really have 10 real physical arms, the utilization is going to double. So my performance management rule is this. For external disk, you're going to look at arm utilization for trends and the like, but look at response time as a true indicator of your disk performance. And Randy gave me this note the other day because he's so good on disk. He's been doing it for his whole career. If you think about it, internal disk has a logical to physical ratio of 1-to-1. External hardly ever has that ratio. So why is that important? With a 1-to-1 ratio, you can truly look at arm utilization if you have a disk performance issue, right? The net results of IOs per second and read-write ratio and block size and all that stuff is arm utilization. However, we need to look at disk response time for external disk. Like I said, with external disk, arm utilization is important because you want to make sure you're not queuing. And as Randy says, there's only one queue for each logical unit. As a general guideline, with external disk, make lots of LUNs. It's free and it will perform better. Now, why external disk can be tricky? Gosh, I love this example. So again, I'm learning this world too, and like I said, I started looking at some great examples, and it just made my head go, like turn to the side like that dog. And this example is one of those. So here's what I'll call my System A, Augusta, and you can see it's well within the best practice guideline for arm utilization, 5.5%. And when I look at System 2, you can see it's even better, 2.8%. When I go back and look at the disk response time on my first system, on Augusta, it's 1.2 milliseconds. When I go on my Pebble system, my System B, notice it's double the response time, 2.5 milliseconds. Back to System A, look at System A. Look when we look at the disk ops, over 10,000 disk ops a second. And then when I went to System B, my Pebble, only a third of the disk ops. And I went, now you're probably going, where's Doug going with this? Well, watch this. I said, let me get this straight. On my System A, my arm utilization was higher, and I did more disk ops than System B, right? System B is better utilization, a third of the disk ops, but the disk response time was worse. What's that? So this is an external disk, environment, and I'm like, what is going on? Well, guess what? This is where I talk about where there's no magic button where you have to kind of go dig and, look when I went down to the IO size level. So when we start to look at IO size, block size, check it out. System A, 12.4, and look at that. System B was double the block size. So that's an example of it's an application issue and it's a design. So even though System A had better utilization, or had worse utilization and had more disk ops and everything, because the way it was designed, that's why the disk response time was more. I thought very, very cool. And that's why you have to look at your data. It's not always, like I said, there's no magic button where you can go, what's going on with this? You have to dig a little bit, and that's an example of digging and finding the answer. Now, external disk number 2. This is unreal. So this happened again because this was our environment that I discovered this weekend in a screenshot. And I went, what is going on? And again, we have an external disk environment. And when I started seeing this data, I was fascinated with just trying to figure it out. Because quite frankly, I haven't had too many of those but the brilliance of this being on our box, I went, okay, I'm going to look at the big picture. So I discovered a change. I drilled down into that day. So this is our development box. And look at the data. If you guys can see this, it's subtle. But look between 11 and 12 down there where that arrow's pointing. Notice I have no collection services data. What you guys don't know is we had a major power outage. And the box went down hard. So when it came back up, notice the test response time on our development box. And you can see the before and after. And again, we'll talk about this next month. But look at that. A 2,400% increase in disk response time. And by the way, little big again, look how bad that response time is now. It's 23, it's like 23 milliseconds. I'm like, okay, so I'm just kind of playing detective here. And look what I did. In the product, you can actually right click in a graph and you can say pin graph in place. So notice I'm now looking at 2 days together. So you can see that the problem is still prevalent on our system. When you see that, it's interesting to me that the bad response time happened after we came back up. I'm like, okay. So now I said, I know this is an external disk environment, but I can't remember my setup, how the frame is set up. So we have something, and I don't know if you guys know this, we have something called an enterprise hardware summary where you can go in and select systems in your navigator panel and look at your environment. So what I did is I said, okay, and I love this because we have a top section where we give you all the summary. You can see that we're looking at 5 systems and 1 file server. And then you can see that there's my CPW, RPERF, cores, memory, and disk. I love that it shows the operating system inventory, so you know where you're at there and what model. But the reason I came here is I wanted to know what systems are on my frame. I was just looking at MPG 720, but my suspicion was, I wonder if anybody else is having an issue. My gut was it's external disk. It probably is. So now I know my big picture, right? I've got a file server, AIX, IBMI, and I've got some Linux. So now, check this out. I said, all right, I'm going to go to my AIX box, by date graph. Look at this. There's the same view, days, and look at the 9. This is where I get, geeky cool in my head. Look how cool that pattern is exactly the same thing. And guess what? When I drill down, unreal, right? Gap in my data, and I've got bad service time. And I said, okay, there's AIX. Let's go to my Linux box. That's a wow moment to me. And I know you guys are laughing at me from afar, but look at that. So now I've got an IBMI box, an AIX box, and a Linux box, all doing the same thing. So what do we do now? What do we do? So we now know this is an external disk environment. So I said, oh, I've got to look at my file server. Now, this is a great real-life example of, when you've got an external disk, we've got the opportunity in our company where, we've got this NavMax license, and you can actually get it for as little as $2,100. But the thing that you're going to see when you look at this data is you need to understand the performance big picture for the whole frame. Right? How are you going to understand performance if you are not looking at the big picture? So look what I did. And this is, I know it sounds like a commercial and I apologize, but this is just me from a performance management standpoint. I have to know what's going on. So look at this on the 9th. Notice these big spikes before the phenomenon started. Those are weekends. So what was interesting to me on the file server, and again, I'm just looking at NMON data. Who cares? It's performance data. But notice how the pattern has completely changed. Where on my Sundays where I have this big whatever processing thing, notice since the phenomenon, it's completely different. And by the way, when I drilled down into it, hello, exactly the same phenomenon as in my other boxes. Now, I admit I'm not a vitals expert yet. I'm getting there. Like you guys, we're all learning. We're all thrown in the deep end of the pool, and we're learning this stuff. But you see the brilliance of the historical data and the power of being able to get down to this level. No more guessing. No more having a feeling. Look at this. I said, okay, I'm going to look at the breakdown of the disk service time, and this is me just diving in and just having fun with the data because I'm trying to learn it. I said, okay, let's look at the Monday before the issue. So that was a breakdown of all the disks, and look at H disk 0 and 1. That was, I think, internal disk, and then you have all the other ones. Notice the pie chart. Look what happened when I looked at the bad day, the Monday after. That's incredible to me, how that phenomenon, the issue that's occurring, has made that the relationship of all those disks completely. It's almost like balanced or different, but it's complete. It's obviously completely different from before when performance was good versus when performance was bad, and that's the power of looking at your entire frame. So now you've got proof, you've got supporting doc that you can figure out what to do next. Now, what do we do now? In fact, we discovered this so late in the game this weekend. After this webinar, we're actually going to talk about what to do next. Maybe a lot of you guys, experts out there that have had this for years and years, you email me and tell me. But we're laughing. We're like, okay, what's going on with with our servers? So we're going to actually talk about the strategy. But I think we got lucky. It's just our development box. Can you imagine if this was happening to your production systems? I've had calls where the VIOS server was under, didn't have enough cores on it. It was under, was not calculated correctly as far as the cores. And I've seen people in the field have bad disk response time, and they had to make a configuration change to the BIOS. So you can see why my commercial with when you guys have external storage, you need to understand your BIOS server. So you need to, think about it. You can do monthly reporting, weekly reporting on these servers just like you can do with IBMI. So there'd be no more guessing. You know exactly how your servers is operating. All right, so let's get to the new change functionality, and then we'll take some questions, and then we'll let you guys get back to work or lunch. All right, new functionality. So our enterprise performance overview that a lot of you have been using for years, and it's the ability when you get to like November 1st and you're looking at October, or December looking at November, you can see what we did last month from an enterprise standpoint. And a lot of people love this because it's hyperlinks, it's graded with green, yellow, red your service levels. The change that we're making is we're now, since this is a performance report, we're actually changing, instead of disk space utilization, we're changing to disk response time. So basically, we show you the 30-month average. We show you what was the highest day within that 30 days, and we actually get down to the peak interval and show you the highest interval for CPU, disk, and memory. So that's the first thing. You can see we're now, that middle section is disk response time. We can show you the milliseconds. By the way, you can see it's a multi-platform report, so if you had your BIOS server on there, you could show that as well. Now, all of you, I know, there's a bunch of you screaming out there, Mayday, Doug, what are you doing? We use this functionality to track and understand our disk space needs, because think about it, the old report was disk space utilization. We could put trends and everything on there, and people could see where they're at. Well, I have great news. We now have new functionality called Enterprise Disk Space Analysis, which is really cool. When you see what this thing can do, look at this. So again, not only can you get the same look and feel from the frame standpoint, look what we've done with ASP. We do individual ASP as part of the report. In the old EPO, we lumped all the ASP together. People said, it's okay, but I wish you didn't do that. Well, look what we do now. Here's an example where on this bottom system, look at ASP1, ASP2. We show you on each system, right? We'll show you the frames. We show you each LPAR, how much is installed in disk, how much you're using. We grade the current month to show you how you're doing, green, yellow, and red, based on your guidelines. And we show you trending. These are all hyperlinks, and I can show it to you live if you want. But look at this. Not only do we grade it and show you where you're at, if you're growing, we tell you the exact date and time you're going to hit your best practice guideline. How cool is that? Now, by the way, if you have one that's over, 80% or whatever, it would just be red and say you're over your guideline. But this is big for you guys because, again, now you can get down to the individual level. And I get that asked all the time when I was a tech support manager. Oh my gosh, our disc is growing. When do we need to buy more disc? And you can say, hey guys, based on the current trend, if everything remains the same, we're going to get there in 194 days. How cool is that? So I love that. I think that's going to make your guys' job easier. So between the new EPO, which will be out soon, we'll package it up for you guys, and this new external disk thing, you guys can now can really understand your disk at such a cool level. Last thing I'll add, just one slide, disk capacity planning. We have an external disk analysis under our what if menu. A lot of you folks that use Disk Magic for capacity planning, this input, these numbers can be input right into Disk Magic. So again, we're trying to help you with capacity planning. And with that, before I go to questions and answers, just to show you where the new stuff is under management reporting, there's EPO and then external disk analysis. So just for fun, I'll just run it on one system there. So graph, disk, oops, sorry, bad operator there. And unless Murphy's Law gets me, my last thing, you can see it's going through. And I just really wanted to show you the hyperlinks are cool, that there's no more, like I say, having a feeling. Look at that. In the yellow, you can see there's my installed disk. It's the same JPEG. There's installed, there's used. Look at this. There's your current month average, year-to-date average. Now it's a trending thing. You can see the growth, and then you can look at that. How cool is that? So very, 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 very powerful functionality. No more guessing. You can run this for all your LPARs, and you'll see the ones that are in trouble, the ones that we need to do something with, and the ones that are okay. And with that, let's do some Q&A. All right. So I'm going to look before we get. Let's see if I got any questions here. So let me see if I can. All right. What's the difference between disk response time and disk calculated? I will tell you what. There are some differences. Obviously, I've noticed the disk looks differently. I will tell you this, for the folks that are asking that, I will put out a special email for you just to give you the real scoop. And that's a great question. What this person's asking, if you look at graphs, disk historically, you can see it's down here. It has something, it's the way you look at samples, and the way there's the way they do the SQL. It's the way IBM used to do it versus the way they're doing it now. And I'm not articulating that well, but I promise you, I will get you an exact definition for you. Let's see. I have the latest perf nav. Do I have the options you're demonstrating? I'm guessing not. I know the EPO is not out there. Like I said, we're going to package it together in the next day or so. So look out to our FTP site and our website, and you'll see it. And again, this webinar will be out there as well. So you'll have the recorded webinar, and you'll have the PDF. Someone asked that they were dropping off, and like I said, that'll help you. You can listen to it later. I had a couple, I think. Oh, we're using client version 18.2J, but I don't say why is my disk growing today. Again, you'll see that when you get the latest and greatest. Hang on, I'm just reading a question here. One person says, cool stuff. Thanks for the demo. Thank you. We love, you guys know how passionate I am about this stuff. It's fun to give you guys this kind of functionality. Okay, I think that's it. So anyway, thank you guys. You're awesome. I can't believe how much fun it is. I feel like we're all an MPG PerfNav PowerNav family after doing this for years. So I promise I will email you guys with if I didn't answer your question. Again, this will be recorded. Go out there and seriously, if you've got external disk, you get NavMax. I mean, I'm just telling you, if you saw today how vital it was, we've got the ultimate real life example where, and thank God, again, it's our development box, but when you have disk performance issues with external disk, you need to see the big picture. So give us a call and we will get that. It's so ridiculously affordable. Trust me, I go to tech conferences all over the world. I never cut down on our products, but I'm always amazed uh, at what we've done as far as making this stuff available to you guys at a really, really reasonable and fair cost. So anyway, thank you for attending, and we'll talk. We'll, again, look for an invite for next month. It's going to be really neat, before versus after, and being able to see all the ways to do before versus after, and be able to look at the Unix side and file systems. You guys are going to love it. All right, guys, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.